Hello, everybody. It's Adrian Plass here.
Yes, and Bridget, hello.
I was just injecting a little joy into my
I was
voice.
quite taken aback.
No, it's just that we just ate a sandwich, and it kind of precipitated into beginning to do this. I thought I needed to inject some joy, so I have. Anyway,
Good. Excellent.
yeah. So it's number 258 in Sounding the Shallows.
It is 258, and it's a wonderfully sunny day, except that increasingly in the UK we're wishing there was a little bit of rain. And in fact, if you remember, Adrian, when we went to a park yesterday, I know there are some people in Australia who listen to this, and for the first time, I think ever, the park smelt like Australia, didn't it? It was so
I think you'd better
dry.
explain that.
Well, it smelt like... Oh, right, smelt
No,
like...
I knew exactly what you meant.
Well, more people...
We got used to that parched feeling,
Yes,
didn't we?
and almost parched smell
There is
of the
a
earth.
smell to it. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right, okay.
We need not just a little rain. We really need some rain
We do.
to get the
We
ground
do.
softened up and help
We've had
things
some
grow.
such lovely emails this week,
We've
haven't
had
we?
a lot of stuff recently.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
And some of them have made us laugh, and some of them have really brought us near to tears. So we're going to share one or two of those today.
Well, the first one is from a regular correspondent in Australia, and there was one part of what he wrote that really made me laugh out loud, and both of us actually. I think partly because it reminded us, the whole letter reminded us of our lives so much,
Yes.
because at times we live in not a noble mystery, but just a human mystery about what's going on.
Yeah.
And we make decisions about what we're going to do, and we look
Yeah.
forward to them.
And these people, they'd needed a holiday.
They
hadn't
really
they?
they
And
work
they'd look
very
forward
hard.
to this holiday.
Yeah,
and
they have a lot
pictured
to
this
do.
holiday.
They have
And
a
they
lo-
ended up looking at a very beautiful place.
They have a lot to do with a very responsible stuff with
Yeah.
people who need it very much,
Yeah.
and we love hearing from. But anyway, so yes, they stayed in one place on their holiday. I think it's first holiday in 35 years.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
So one place was great, right? And then he says, in the second place we stayed, it was advertised as a beautiful bush retreat. What they didn't tell you until 2 days before you are due to arrive is that the track to it is very steep with loose gravel. For those who have had some of the holidays like what we've had, will recognise it at that point.
It's
It
worrying.
gets a little worrying.
Especially the warning they were given.
Get a good run up and don't stop. Well, our dear old Hyundai got halfway up and gave up. My wife, bless her, got out and walked the rest of the way, and found the owner, who walked down to my rescue. He offered to show me how it's done, which I accepted without hesitation. Fortunately, there was a clearing on which to turn around, and he drives it back down so as to get that run up. And yes, he does it. Well, we needed nothing more that day, so we stay the night in the place we've got to, and it is indeed delightful. So, there were
It sounds beautiful.
beautiful parrots, frolicking deer,
A quaint lake with ducks. I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
amazing,
very
doesn't
peaceful.
it? Absolutely.
Right, good. But tomorrow we need more supplies, and we will make it.
No, will we make
Will we make it back up this ridiculous steep hill? Oh dear. We decide that if we make it back up, we will stay. And if not, we will cut our losses and stay somewhere else. I
And
don't
I
know what
love
don't know what they were going to do with their stuff that's still in the place where they're staying.
But I
There we
love what
are.
he says about the morning. So come the morning, he says he psychs himself up to pick up speed because he'd
hold
always
on.
wanted...
No refunds on this place.
No.
He makes that point before trying to do it. Right, okay, go on.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying he said he psyched himself up and ready to do this. And I just love picturing them in the car because he says, I'd always wanted to be a rally driver. So off he goes. He has a good run up. He zooms up the hill and he makes
He made it easy. Then he said, I look at my wife and she is a petrified wreck. Obviously, the huge question of whether they would make it to the top or just run back down was awful. And he says, we didn't stay. We found another place in the town, very flat and uninspiring.
But safe.
So the suggestion, I suppose, is that it didn't have the interest of the other place, but at least it was flat.
I wonder if that triggers off memories in anybody else. I know we had one holiday where, if you remember, Adrian, we took a wrong turning and we ended up going up to a ski slope. And I have no head for heights. So the whole family knew I was shaking, and as I'm the driver, you all got out, didn't you, and waited while I crawled around on the tarmac trying to summon up the courage. And then I drove the car back down on the clutch, destroyed the clutch, and we had to get a hire car. So I do understand.
I also remember going away with kids in care, being driven by somebody else, because we didn't drive then, and this chap took a wrong turning, and we ended up driving up. I mean, when I say a wrong turning, I'm talking about a very steep, muddy track. And in the end, he just crawled to a halt and said, we're not going to get anywhere up here. Right. And we had to back down.
So anyway, we'd love to hear.
We sympathise, and we found it very funny. And we do hope you have another holiday. I mean, some of it was very good, I think.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah.
So that was lovely, and that made us laugh. And I'll tell you something that's really moved me, which is not an email, but it's everything about the news.
Back earlier in the week, wasn't it?
Well, one day earlier. Yeah. It's the 85th anniversary of when the little ships took out from Ramsgate to go towards Dunkirk. And I think even if we haven't seen the film Dunkirk, most of us will have knowledge even from school about the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of soldiers stranded on the beach at Dunkirk, being bombed, it was very cold, it was very frightening, and there really didn't look like any hope.
I think it was, that's right. It was a terrible, they had their backs to the Germans, as it were, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And they were just, some of them, they were watching their fellow soldiers dying in front of them. Yeah. I'm wondering how long it would be before.
And the celebration today, or yesterday rather, of 85 years ago, was of all these little boats setting out, and that was a quite extraordinary thing. There were fishing boats, there was rescue boats, there was even a steam tug apparently, determined, ordinary people. And somebody talking from the Navy yesterday was saying the civilians who set out, they were just ordinary people. Could they make a difference? It reminds me of all the things we've ever thought about lost things. Can you make a difference? And these little boats, the reason they needed them, it was because they could get into the shallow water, pick up these men, and get them into the deeper water where the big boats were. Mm-hmm. And then they could be rescued. And the extraordinary thing, did you realise the numbers, Adrian?
I didn't until I heard them, no.
There was over 1,000 of these ships. Over 1,000 people set out in little boats to go across the channel to France.
Some picked up only one.
Yes, they could only pick up one because they were small boats.
Quite a lot.
What I had not realised until listening to this news yesterday was there were over 338,000 people rescued.
Yeah.
I mean, that is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is incredible. And they were saying that many of the boats that we used then have been kept and looked after.
That's right. I think about 60 of them set sail from Ramsgate yesterday to do that same journey to celebrate 85 years. I don't think any of the veterans who had been part of those stranded on the beach are alive still.
No, there aren't. How do you think these people felt when they set off in their little boats? Do you think they were worried, frightened of what would happen to them?
Oh, I'm sure they were, but I mean that's courage, isn't it? It really is. And it's also just that gung-ho feeling that we're going to try and do something. We're going to try and make a difference.
Yeah.
I find at
I
the
love the
moment,
idea of a boat with one person in it.
I know.
Going to pick up one person
Yes.
is wonderful.
Yeah, but that one person
Yeah.
getting onto the big boat and being safe, one person. I don't know why it's moved me so much, Adrian, except I think with the world as it is at the moment, the idea that you can make a difference in some way to one person is quite important, really.
Oh, of course it is. We had another email from another friend of ours, actually, who we always love to hear from. And this was about lost things. And it was quite obviously stirred people up a bit, the whole lost things thing.
Yeah.
And she lives in a vicarage, and she talked at some length about the difficulty of sorting things out and tidying up and all the rest
Well,
of it.
I think mainly because of all the people who leave things there.
Well, that's right, yeah. And she sent a poem.
Well, she's a poet,
she'd
isn't
written,
she?
yeah.
So here we go.
Which is about lost things.
Celebrate with me for things restored. They turn up where you'd never think to look, and when you least expect, a hidden hoard. A photograph, once used to mark a book, that jigsaw piece that makes the whole complete. The white king from the chess set, which appears with one pearl earring stuck beneath the seat. For all small things that languish lost for years, for missing coins fixed back upon their chain, for missing sheep brought safely through the gate, for those who loved and lost and found again, for all who learned that it was not too late, for prodigals through missing years adored, celebrate with me for things restored. We're going to hear in a minute, aren't we, another email from somebody for who that's very relevant. But you came across
Radio 4 is wonderful.
Yes, it is.
I don't know whether it's good to celebrate the old, or some of the more old-fashioned aspects of England, but there's something about the program, some of the programs, that take you back to a time when we peered interestedly at tiny things. This isn't really a tiny thing, but it's just so wonderful that it's happening. I'd not heard anything about it. There's a man who discovered that many, many people have lost valuable things like wedding rings, engagement rings.
What, lost them on the beach?
Lost them on the beach, lost them in a field.
Oh, right. Okay.
Some sort of activity. And obviously mourned their loss, but hadn't a hope, as far as they knew, of finding them again. And the fellow who was being interviewed has actually formed an organisation that helped those people.
It's an organisation.
Oh, yeah,
it's not just
one
him.
man. No.
Oh, right.
It grew because the demand became so
Yes.
high.
Oh, I wish I'd known about him.
And he talked about going to a beach and the man not being quite sure where his wedding ring had gone, but sort of roughly. And he actually found it.
How did he find it?
With a metal detector.
Oh, I
Which
see.
is how he works most of the time. And even more bizarrely, someone lost their gold teeth. I can't remember exactly where that was.
Well, was that on the beach as well?
No, it wasn't. I think it was somewhere else. But he found the gold teeth. You know, I've always had a sort of inner lust for metal detectors. The thought of wandering around fields and things, finding things, does appeal to me. But that's I think it's such a wonderful thing to do. And I just wonder, after the radio program, how many people will have contacted this guy.
Yeah.
But it's become a sort of mission for him, I think. And I don't think he charges, but people do offer contributions sometimes to make sure, because it isn't just him now, because he wouldn't be able to do it on his own. But I thought that was amazing, that something you've really thought had gone forever could be somehow discovered if you knew roughly where it ended
Holding
up.
on, I mean, I doubt very much whether people who'd lost things like rings or gold teeth held on to much hope. But we had an email, and just going back to the poem about the missing people who've prodigals through missing years adored. We also had an email, didn't we, that was far more poignant about a lost thing.
Yeah,
and
it was very moving, and actually
her
the
daughter.
poem mentioned, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Similar,
and her daughter, it just broke my heart. The first part of this email: disappeared for 3 years at the age of 17 and felt lost to us. And this person said we had to hold on to our belief. They had to carry on somehow, having a tiny little bit of hope and a feeling that somehow, maybe one day they would hear from her. And then apparently one evening she phoned, even just reading that, one evening she phoned. And when I heard her voice and we talked and then met a few days later, the joy was indescribable. And she says we knew something of the prodigal father's heart when he ran out to meet his son. My son was lost and now he's found. Let's celebrate. It's interesting, isn't it? Just even reading this reminds us all over again, not just of the prodigal father, but of this idea of lost children. There's so many ways people get lost, aren't there?
Yeah.
Obviously that's the worst. You can, or thinking of soldiers stranded in Dunkirk, or thinking about something that was valuable to you getting lost. But there are other ways of getting lost, aren't there?
Yes, there are. We hear a lot about it too, because we talk to people a lot, and sometimes when you got to know them a little bit, you discover an incredible amount of loss. I'm sometimes staggered by how people live through these things. Within a family, that you lose your parents and you lose a brother or a sister, and then another close person who you love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
The continuing pummeling of loss produces something that is, I don't think, can be understood unless you've actually experienced that.
And the idea that you hold on to faith by a thin string, fraying string.
If you're lucky.
And I was just going to say, and we do hear from people who thought that was broken completely, and then found that it was just about mendable a little bit to carry on. Yeah.
There's a lot in the Bible, if that's where you were looking, about loss. So obviously, one of Jesus' 3 or 4 of Jesus' parables were all about loss,
which is what our poet friend was referring to.
Someone losing a ring, and someone losing a sheep, a shepherd losing a sheep.
Or losing a coin. It was about the widow with the coin, looking for the coin, looking everywhere.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Adrian, that did remind me once. Do you remember the nightmare when we were selling a car? It was an old car, and we were selling it. And we found that down the back of the seat, the person who bought it found a huge amount of lost money.
That's right.
That we'd somehow lost.
Which he'd now got.
We'd now got, yes. He let us know with great glee, but that's nothing to do with this, really.
And of course, lost son, Jesus, the prodigal son, already mentioned, and Jesus being, for a time, lost on the cross. But people quite often ask us, what do you make of this? What does it mean? Why would it happen? And all that stuff. And there are certainly occasions, and I'm not sure if this has happened to me exactly like this. There's where you lose what was a very cherished, clear and simple way of understanding and holding on to a faith. If it's a Christian faith, we usually hear about. That meant a lot. And we mentioned the other day about this double bereavement thing, where you lose someone you love, and you cannot understand why God would let that person.
So you lose him as well.
Yeah, and so you lose him as well.
Yeah.
And I haven't come up with any answers to that, which is not surprising, because nor does anybody else that I know of. Except that, in a strange way, I think I haven't experienced that sort of loss, thank God. I mean, I've lost people, but somehow I use the word embrace very carefully. Not embrace the loss because you like it or because it's a nice thing, but to
Do you mean accept rather than...
No, not even to accept.
Embrace.
No,
okay.
to say, is there a possible... No, to ask the question, is there a possible way of discovering something more authentic?
And that is not the same as saying, I'm sure there's a good reason why such and such a terrible thing happened, and therefore mopping it up quickly and tidying it up, or allowing somebody else to tidy it up for you. That's not what you're talking about, is
Not
it?
in the slightest, no. I mean, the picture we used to use, for what it's worth, was that when you become a thing, you become part of some faith group or church or something, or a belief, that it's as though a very small layer of bricks has been laid in you as something that feels all right. And there is a temptation, and this happens to many, many people, and I know it happened to me, that you build something equivalent to a cardboard superstructure over the top. And the time passes and that all gets swept away by events and things you don't understand, and the fact it hasn't worked out the way people said it would. And then maybe another layer of bricks is laid. So you now have not what you thought you'd have by now, but you do have something that is authentic up to the point where it's real. And I think from then on, you might move into the habit of looking for authenticity and stop kidding yourself. And at one point in your belief career, if that's what it is, you'd be a bit frightened about discarding things or changing your view of things, or deciding that you had to go in a completely different direction for some reason. But it is possible to find something developing that is, it's very, very difficult to know how to explain this, because I think I've known this to an extent in my life, but I haven't had the sort of dramatic losses that some people talk about, so I don't know.
I have no idea, Adrian, how I would be able to embrace the sort of loss that some people experience. I can only think that, like I say, you hang on by a frayed bit of string, and I can think of people who we know who have experienced an incredible loss, and we have said sometimes, we're holding you on a string, we're holding you. You can't do anything at the moment, but we'll hang on to you and we'll pray for you, and we'll not just pray for you, but we'll kind of be it for you for a while until you can start again. And thinking about those little boats going out, I think that's sometimes what we can do for somebody. We can't sort it. This is our great frustration, I think, in life. You can't sort things. But maybe sometimes you can just go out in your little boat and rescue one bit of somebody by saying, I'll be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to somehow, as I say, whether it's praying, whatever it is, you're going to just hang on to them for a bit.
Yeah, certainly I'm sure you're thinking of the same person I am, whose life had been so damaged by all the stuff that had happened. Yeah. In the end, we were hanging on to the end of it.
I'm thinking about a few people, really, but I'm thinking about the fact that if the little boat that could only take one person managed to get that back to safety, and if we're talking about going down funny old roads to meet people who feel very lost and bringing them back home, that's not bad, is it?
No, it's not. No.
Anyway, please keep writing to us, because
we'd
love
love
to hear
getting
from
this
you.
stuff. Yeah. And if you've lost someone, I'm so sorry. It's so very, very tough. And there really isn't an easy answer to it. We know that. But I don't know. I do believe in hope. I do. Anyway, leave it there. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.